Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today for the Skuid Developer Deep Dive. Today we're going to look at one of the coolest new features in the Skuid Summer 14 release, the Action Framework. My name is Matt Brown, I'm a Customer Success Rep. We also, if you are new to Skuid and you'd like to get an intro to some of its features, this is not a great time for that. What is a great time for that is our weekly free dive, which you can register for on our website. We do those on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. But today we're going to look at the Action Framework, and Zach McElrath, our lead developer, is going to take the lead. So Zach, take it away.
All right, thank you, Matt. Welcome everyone. We are really excited about this new release, and one of the features we're most excited about in the Summer 14 release of Skuid is the Action Framework. So we're going to devote this entire session to it. We're going to leave time at the end for questions, because we're pretty sure there's going to be some questions. And we've also, as we'll show in a bit, we've put together a few sample pages and some tutorials about the Action Framework to help you, in addition to this deep dive, to kind of navigate how to best make use of this feature in your app.
One note, we are recording today's session as well, and we will be making that available on the Skuid community under the deep dives section there.
That's right. Thanks, Matt. So let's get started. What we're going to cover today, first of all, we're going to go over what is the Action Framework, what's the use case behind it, why did we build it, why is it there, how will it be useful to you. And as part of that, we're going to cover a few key concepts that are helpful we'll be talking about with the Action Framework to kind of give you some context to what this is all about. Then we'll walk through at a high level just a bunch of possible use cases. There are lots and lots of use cases for the Action Framework, as you'll see, and I'm sure you'll start thinking of some for your own app as we go along. And at the end, we're going to go through a series of demos to kind of walk you through actually making this happen. So you get your feet wet, and hopefully you'll feel comfortable by the end of this to be able to go use the Action Framework in some specific ways for your app. Okay, so let's start with why we built the Action Framework. What is the point of all this? Oh, first, that's right, links. So I mentioned we were going to have some links. So for our repository of sample pages has a folder dedicated to Action Framework examples. So some of the things we've built today will be there, so you can go try those out in your own app. So that's bit.ly/skuid-af-samples. There's also a tutorial written by Josh to help get you started on what all the different action types mean. So there's lots of different ones that you can choose from, and you might be like, so what does this do? What does that one do? And that's why Josh has written this tutorial, Skuid AF Help. So definitely check those out. We'll come back to these if you guys have any questions. We'll write those down in the comments as well. Okay, so what is the Action Framework? At a high level, Skuid exposes a rich API of model and user interface actions that you can take. Some examples of that are, for the models part of Skuid, you can create a new row, update rows, save a model, activate conditions on models, deactivate conditions on models, requery models to pull in new data, and there's some others. As far as user interface, what do we mean by actions? Things like showing a pop-up, navigating to a step in a wizard, new feature showing a table drawer. In mobile, that would be showing a panel, toggling a panel, showing a pop-up panel, and then universally going to different pages through the redirect URL action. Those are some examples of model and user interface actions that Skuid exposes. But we wanted an easy way to define from the page composer a sequence of actions to run in response to various user interface interactions, as well as to model events. Now, Skuid's JavaScript API has made it fairly easy for developers to write snippets that performed these sequences of actions, but we wanted to eliminate the need to write any code at all to perform these most common action types. We also wanted to give ourselves a framework to roll out new action types and make it super easy for you to add them into places where you're already running actions. So as we put out new functionality, you can pull that in different places. So the first key concept, as I just mentioned, is the idea of an action. So Skuid exposes a whole lot of user interface action types. And there are both model action types, as I mentioned, so things like create new row, update rows, and then there's user interface action types. Josh's tutorial walks you through all the different action types that we have exposed right now, both for mobile and for desktop. So I'm not going to list those all out here, but we'll be showing those in our demos in a bit. Now, there are various points in Skuid, which we'll call interactions, where a user can make some interaction with the user interface. And we tried to plug in the action framework at all of those entry points. So when a user presses a button, when they swipe left in mobile, swipe right, tap and pinch and hold, when they pinch and zoom in mobile, when all these different interactions that a user can take. We wanted to plug in the action framework so that in response to those interactions, Skuid would perform actions. So one other piece of that is new in the Summer 14 release is the idea of model events being initiators of actions. Now, we didn't cover this in our Summer 14 overview webinar, but we are going to cover that today. And this is really powerful. What this gives you the ability to do is say, whenever something happens to a model, for example, whenever a model is saved, or whenever a new row is created in a certain Skuid model, we might want to run a series of actions. So really common examples of this would be whenever a model is saved, maybe you want to update another model. So go kind of keep the models in sync, model synchronization. But there's other use cases for this as well. So these two and three, the interactions and model events are entry points for what we call actions. All right, let's talk about some possible use cases. The first one that we think lots of people were really excited about with Summer 14 is the ability for pop-up buttons, or really buttons, page title buttons in general, to perform multiple actions. So really good examples of this would be from Popup, click to both save a model and then close the pop-up. Also being able to requery another model in the page, kind of once you've added new data through a pop-up to sync some other parts of the page that are peripherally related. Also canceling a model and closing a pop-up. But you'll see there are so many examples of these different things you can do from buttons. Some other really powerful examples are in tables. Table global actions. Right now there's an action for you to create a new row, but there's also another action for showing in a pop-up. So what the action framework lets you do now is to create a new row and then edit it in a pop-up. So the row you've created will become the context for what that pop-up is showing, and you can both create a new row and edit it in a pop-up. So two actions, but they're initiated now through one button click. Another example of that would be creating a new row, but having it come pre-populated with default values. This one is really handy for accomplishing quick actions that you do all the time. We'll show some examples of this in our demos. In table row actions and mass actions, as well as now in queue actions, a very powerful possible use case is to load related records into Skuid and then show those in a pop-up or with queues in another part of the screen. So you don't have to show them in a pop-up, but the concept of loading related records for a specific item that you're dealing with and then showing that data somewhere else on the screen is now very easy to do with the action framework, and before that would have taken a lot of kind of finagling or use of the page include. And you'll see that with the action framework, there may be a few more steps to do along the way, but the end result can be very fast, and it's a lot more fine-tuned. Another thing you can do in this one, we're super excited to show, is the ability to create related records in other models. So, well, I'm going to just refer to this one as the shopping cart paradigm. This this would allow you to do things like an opportunity line items table, click in a little button called Choose Products. This will show a pop-up of products in a different table, and then you can click like a little shopping cart button next to it to add it to your line items. And this shopping cart or quick add paradigm could be applied all over the place. Everybody's got that kind of an example where you want to quickly add related records to another table. So we'll show an example of this one. We're sure you guys are going to love this. Another example that you can do on rows or in math to rows through math actions is updating rows. So closing a bunch of cases, escalating a bunch of cases, completing tasks, closing opportunities, or closing lost opportunities, performing common combinations of status changes, assigning records to yourself, just selecting records and basically saying, like, leads, I'm the owner of these leads. All of those can be done super quickly now with the update rows action. In Q item actions is a new place where you can do so much that you couldn't do before with queues. And one of those examples is being able to show a pop-up as a result of a Q item action. We'll show a great example of this as one of our first demos, so I won't talk too much more about this, but really the whole action framework can be launched from Q items. And you'll see how queues can really become a powerful driver of your pages. One of the examples we've already seen from the community on this that we thought was very cool was filtering a calendar based on the selected Q item. So you might have maybe an account or a particular work item for a field service worker on a daily. You may have a queue of his to-dos for the day. Click that to-do item in the queue, and then you filter out a calendar of items they have to do or different things like that. We've just seen really crazy combinations of components talking to each other with the action framework. And this one was a great one we saw. And also, right now, the common paradigm with queues is to load a page include panel as a result of clicking on an item. But with the action framework, you can actually avoid the need to do that. There's sometimes when the page include makes a lot of sense when you're trying to reuse the same area over and over again, but you might be able to do some of this with the action framework, and we'll show you some benefits to that. Lastly, this idea of model actions that I've talked about. So for being able to, when a child model is saved, requery a parent. So for instance, if you have a roll-up summary field on a parent model and you create new children or update your children in such a way that your summary fields would get updated, this is a really easy way to make Skuid sync up. Whenever a child model gets saved, you can say, go requery the parent. Another crazy example for this, and this is just, of course, one of many possible use cases, is that you might have maybe you're walking the user through a new opportunity wizard, and based on the selected price book or the selected region for the person who's purchasing, you might want to dynamically change a catalog of products based on, so they change the pick list value to my region is Northeast. You might want to, and what you can do with the model actions is instantly requery products catalog after having changed some conditions. Say, oh, change product family to Northeast, or change product region to Northeast, something like that. So lots of crazy stuff there. Okay, with that, we are going to jump into some demos. Everybody's all about it anyway. Okay. Oops. Okay, let's pop out of this. Okay, for our first demo, we are going to show how you can use the action framework with table actions. We'll start with the context of a lead example page, a lead tab kind of page that we have set up here. The first one we'll show is how you can create new completed tasks for leads very, very quickly using the action framework with global actions. So here in this leads tab, we have a bunch of row actions. One of these is our little action here, which shows whether or not there are related activities for the lead. So right now, this looks like there's one or more open tasks for David Tilkinson and for Chaz Williams. But it looks like nobody's really talked to Flavius Josephus yet. So we're going to pull up on this little action. And this is using the action framework to load related data for Flavius and then show some of that information here in a pop-up. Now, for Flavius, looks like we do have some completed tasks, but looks like we're going to add a new follow-up task. So that's going to be, that right here is an example of the action framework. What we did right there was we created a new task record in this table, and then we pre-populated a lot of values. As you can see, we set the status to new, priority normal, we even set the activity date, and we even set a reminder date for today. Now, we could go, we could set some other things here, but what we're going to do for this example is we're going to add a new example down here. So in our completed tasks, some of you guys have seen this from our sample pages, we've made it possible to really quickly log various types of completed tasks. So for a salesperson running through his leads queue, there might be like 4 different possible common results to a sales call. Maybe they did a go-to meeting with the person. Maybe they shot them an email. Maybe they had a phone call. But the one we're missing here is that they had a phone call and left a voicemail. So that probably happens a lot. Try to call somebody. You just want to say, hey, I sent them a voicemail. That's what I was working on. So we're going to go into our page editor here, show how to do this. So from the page composer, all this initially is launched from a row action on our table. Here's our row action. You'll notice with the action framework, there is an action type that you'll see all over the place called run multiple actions. This is the gateway into the action framework. When you have this action type selected, it generally pops up this new category in the top right called actions. And what you'll see here is a list of actions that are going to get executed whenever this row action is clicked on. So when I clicked on my little button back on the page, it ran all of these actions sequentially. So that's an important concept with actions, is that these are executed one after the other. Skuid will run through these actions, and unless there's an error, it will proceed through the sequence from one action to the next. Sometimes actions can have errors. So one time, really there's 3 places right now that an action can fail to execute, and that is when you're saving a model, querying a model, or running a snippet, a Skuid snippet. In these cases, it's possible to define an error branch. So we'll show this a little bit later, but just wanted to introduce the idea that actions are sequential. They move from top to bottom. They're executed one after the other, and they will continue in that process unless an error is encountered. And if an error is encountered, it will then follow an error branch, and it will not proceed with the next actions. So that's a very important point to keep in mind. But let's return to this example we're showing here. So what actions are we performing, and what actions can we do with the action framework? The first action we're doing is what we have called a visual navigation action. If you look at our list of actions here that we have available, they're categorized by kind of how they're used and what kind of actions they are. The first 6 in our list are visual navigation or user interface actions. What we're doing here is we're showing a message that appears in front of the screen and blocks the UI. That means that the user can't interact with the screen until this action sequence until we unblock the UI. So that's a common paradigm we encourage, is to block the UI and then perform your actions, and when the user should be allowed to re-interact, then unblock the UI. Always remember to do that, otherwise your users will be stuck. So especially when you have possibilities of error branches, always unblock the UI. So we're saying loading lead profile and related tasks, letting the user know what we're doing. Now the next thing we're doing is we're canceling changes in models, just in case there were any leftover changes the user mistakenly left open from the last item they clicked on. It's kind of a technical detail. Then we're going to run a series of actions. We're going to come back to these later. Don't want to do too much all at once. But the important one here for our purposes is show Popup. Now, when you have an action type show Popup, this will give us our pop-up builder. So from here, we can see a preview of what we just saw back on the page. We have a page title where we show the name of the lead, the first name, last name of the company, if we have it. And then we have a tab set. The tab set, we're showing the activities and the lead profile information. So there we have our 3 columns of lead information. And under activities, we're first showing open tasks. And then down at the bottom, this is where we're after, is our completed tasks. So right now we have 3 global actions: log email, log phone call, and log web meeting. All of these are running the action framework. As you see again, the action type is run multiple actions, and there's a little actions property category up in the top right. Now what we want to do is add a new global action. So we'll go to add features, add global action, and we'll set our action type to be run multiple actions. We'll say log voicemail. So we'll pick here for our icon, we'll pick our little telephone. There we go. Now for the actions. The action we want to run here is to create a new row in the model. So here we're going to look at some actions in our model data changes. Create new row in model. We pick the model. This is a common thing you do with model action types, is to pick a model that you want to perform the action on. So for task history, this is the model we want to interact with because we want to log a completed task. So we want it to go into task history. What this will do is it'll give us any defaults or conditions that are already applied for task history. So for instance, we already have a condition on task history to say, just show me tasks for the selected lead. So the lead ID will already be set. But we also want to set some other defaults. So for this voicemail type task, first of all, we want to say that it's completed. So we'll set status to completed. So what we're doing right here is we're adding default values. Again, if you missed that, if you click on Create New Row, there's a little brick icon that shows up that lets us add default values to this new row. Say status completed, and we'll say that we'll assume that we completed this today. So we'll pick for activity date, we'll pick today. So that should set it to be today. And we'll say priority is normal. Now the last 2 fields we want to pick are assigned to and subject. So assigned to is another word for owner. And for owner ID, we are going to use something a little more technical here, and this is a model merge. So we're going to go look at, we have a model on our page called running user. And running user, we have a condition to say, give me the user record for whoever's viewing the page. So user info condition, ID equals user info, user ID. What that lets us do is here in this create new row, we can use our merge syntax to say, go to model, go to the running user model, get its first row, and get the ID of that user. So that will set our owner ID to be the running user's ID. That's kind of a tricky thing, but it's really helpful to know that you can use the merge syntax there, and we'll be using that again during this webinar for some other examples. The next thing we want to do is set the subject. Now here, we're going to say left voicemail, and we could leave it at that, but just to demonstrate some of the capabilities here, we're going to say who we left a voicemail with. Now, because we're performing this action, we have a context. We have a context of the table row we're working on. And what we're going to do, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our selected leads. We have a model on the page that has the lead that we're looking at in the pop-up. We're going to go use our model merge syntax again to go to that model and get its first name. Selected lead data 0 dot first name. So this will let us basically say left voicemail with Joe, left voicemail with Flavia, whatever data. We could put in whatever data we wanted into that area. and it would be pre-populated in our record. Okay, so we've got our action set up. I'm just going to go through and add a hotkey so that I can click this. As a salesperson will probably do is from the keyboard, I'm going to say F4. I want to run this. I want to run this action. So let's save our page. Go back. Let's check this out. Okay, so let's go to a different view. Let's go to Super Wonder Records. Okay, so I want to log a new email. So I'm just going to hit F4. There we go, F4. That's all I had to do. That basically hit our log voicemail. And you'll notice that it pulled in the first name from Super Wonder, assigned it to me, activity date today, priority normal. And now we also, that's all we have to do. I can also go through, just to show you this with some of the other ones, I hit F3, that logs the meeting, F2, that logs the phone call, F1. So you can really quickly create a lot of data. I'm just going to go ahead and save those. Let's say email, sent latest, catalog. Okay, there we go. So sales guy just logged a whole bunch of stuff they did. They just bombed Super Wonder with all kinds of stuff. Now, the next thing I want to show is, I just did that really quickly, but when I saved, I hit Command S, and that actually closed, it saved my records and closed the pop-up. So this is a really important one to work with. This button up here, Save and Close, is also running the action framework. Back here in our pop-up, we have our Save and Close button. Scroll down a little bit. Let's get some more. So you notice it says action type run multiple actions. And here we have our actions. So the first thing I did, again, is I showed a message in blocked UI. Should be getting familiar. Saving, showed a message. Now I run my Save Models action. This lets us pick multiple models to save. So I have our little drop down here. I'm going to save my selected lead, if I've made any changes to the lead's profile, if I've closed any tasks or completed any tasks or added any logged calls, logged emails, logged web meeting. So all this data is going to be saved just by pressing this button. Now, you'll notice here I have an on-error action. These are added by clicking this little brick with the error triangle. It says Add On-Error Action. What I'm doing is I'm saying if anything goes wrong with this save, Skuid's normally going to display some red error messages right under the page title, so I can go fix my data. If I have some missing fields that are required, or I have a validation rule or trigger error, Skuid's going to tell me about it with a red error message. But I blocked the UI. I better unblock it so the user can do something, or the user is going to hate me. So whenever you do a save model, and you've done a block UI before, always unblock the UI as an on-error action. That's what's going to happen here. Now, normally in the flow, if this happens, that's the end of the sequence. The rest of the actions don't happen. If my save is successful, however, I want to save the user the hassle of clicking the X or hitting escape to close the pop-up. So I'm just going to close the topmost pop-up for them. And then I'm going to unblock the UI to make sure the user can do stuff. So pretty simple action sequence there, but it's doing a lot of stuff for the user to save them time. And again, this is executable by a hotkey. So either Control S or Command S will let me do that, hit that save, and get me out of the pop-up so I can move on to my next lead. So those are some really common examples. But the one other thing that's going on before we leave the Leads tab is on our Open Tasks table, we have this action called Mark Completed. Some of you guys may be familiar we've had this in an example like this in our sample pages repository for a while. But what we're really excited about, the reason we're showing this here, is because this is no longer a JavaScript snippet. This is now using the action framework. So we wanted to show that you don't have to rely on us creating snippets to be able to show you guys how to do this. You can do this on your own. So mass actions or row actions for changing values on records and then updating models can all be done with the action framework. So let's take a look at this. In this action sequence, first thing again we do is we show a message in block UI, say that we're marking our tasks as completed. And here's the most important one. And it's actually very simple. We go to our open tasks model, we pick the status field, and we say value completed. That's our update field on rows actions. Very simple, field value pairs. You could add, if you wanted to update multiple field values, just add another action. So if I wanted to say update status as well as date, if I wanted to say mark it completed and make the activity date today, I just create another updated field on row action, pick the model I'm working on, so activity date, and set the date to be a specific date or a predefined constant like today. So that'd be an example of how I could do that. The next thing I'm going to do is save my models. So I'm going to save, first of all, my open tasks, but also my task history. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to requery both models to make sure that they're showing the right data. So one is supposed to show just open, one's supposed to show just closed. So I don't want to update my models before I've saved them. I want to make sure all the changes have been saved, then I'll query them. If there's no changes to save, that's fine, it'll go through. But I want to make sure I've saved everything and then requery. That's just an important thing I want to make sure you guys are thinking about when building this thing. And finally, I'll unblock UI. Always make sure you're doing that. So that's really all there is to it. Those 5 actions complete everything that snippet used to do. And you can see right here, you guys can do this all on your own for whatever examples you have. So we're really excited. Hope you guys will take advantage of this. Let's just show this in action, just to prove that this isn't smoke and mirrors. Okay, let's go find. David Pilkinson here has some open tasks. You can tell by that little alarm clock that's red. Here we go. We have our mark completed action here. So what we can do is click the checkbox. It's going to run our little action sequence. There we go. Marked it completed. Change the stat, and then we requery our models. We could also do this for mass actions. Let's click 2 new follow-up tasks. Let's save those. Oops, that's one design flaw with the save and close. Got to think through that a little bit. So we'll save it. Make sure they have a save button and a save and close. Okay, so now we have our table. Now we can select all these records and run the exact same type of action sequence from mark completed. There we go, pulled those guys over. So there you go. Lots of power, all at your fingertips with the action framework. Okay, our next example, we are going to pull open something that I think is pretty cool, and that's an opportunity planning wall. So in this, we are using queues, 5 queues on 5 separate models to visually organize our opportunities. Now we could do this with any object. This is not there's nothing hard coded in here. This is just Skuid, Skuid queues, Skuid models on the opportunity object. But we can do this with any object. Cases, anything you wanted, really, you could do this. So over here in our left column, we have opportunities that are in the prospecting stage. So we could scroll through those. We could search for a particular company or opportunity name. We could also add filters here if we wanted to. But the other thing you can do from this particular page, we've added the ability to drag and drop records between. So that is not native yet in Skuid as a declarative capability, but we have an example here of where you can drag and drop between various stages. But the reason I'm showing this for the action framework is because when you're looking at these opportunities, you may not want to just move them between stages arbitrarily. You might want to actually take a look at the details of the opportunity. So with the action framework, you can do that. The way we're going to do it here, because so much of our page is taken up by our queues, we're going to show a pop-up to show the details. So if I click on Acapulco New Generators, let's do this here. This is just using our page include to load this up, but you'll see you can quickly see anything going on in the life of the opportunity. Go to which line items are being purchased, who the key people are, and then run back. All right, looks like it's ready to move this to price quote. I think this deal's ready. That's kind of where the stage is at, and we can see my owner picture next to it as well, which is helpful little thing there. So from this is really not a very complicated action sequence at all. This is, let's go edit the page. But this is just to show that that queue component now supports, for item actions, the whole action framework, which means that you can do things like showing a pop-up, which previously that's a new feature. That's, of course, that opens up queues for a whole lot more stuff. And coming up very soon is going to be actually sneak preview showing drawers, showing and hiding drawers for queues. Very exciting. Just like tables have drawers, queues are going to have drawers coming up in a nightly build here. So get ready for that. But with the show pop-up here, we can do what we've done before with, and we've shown examples of pop-ups of showing a page include to help simplify the management of what's showing. You can have a whole other page that's like an opportunity detail. You can just show that right here in a pop-up. So very simple for managing that. And we're actually going to go edit that page for the next part. So for this deal right here, you notice that when I went to the key people, there was nobody there. I don't have any key people, and this might be this is really helpful. It's really helpful to define the key people on an opportunity in order to know just who do I contact. If I have a question about this opportunity, who do I contact? I don't want to have to drill into the account, and I don't want to have to guess who the people are that I should be speaking to. And usually, as part of identifying an opportunity, you might identify who are the people. Now, this is where we're going to bring in the shopping cart paradigm or the ad-related records that I spoke about earlier. So this is really exciting. We could, just to contrast this to what else we could do, we could go through and we could use our autocomplete to pick people. So if I knew the name of a person off the top of my head who happens to be working at Acapulco, which I don't, I could go select them. I could say Joe. And Skuid actually provides a way to make a filtered drop-down here of people. But the real thing is we don't want to have to, even if this was a filtered drop-down, there's a faster way to do this. There's a faster way to define key people. And that's what we're going to show. Let's cancel these records. For this example, we're going to click this global action. What this is going to do is bring up another pop-up on top that is called Add Key People to Our Opportunity. You'll notice that what it has down here is a table of people who work at Burlington Textiles, which is this company. So they work in Acapulco, Mexico, and this is their deal to install new generators. So here we see all the people that work at this company, and we could add new contacts if we wanted to, but we're going to say that, let's see, it looks like Rochelle is important, this Jack Rogers is important, and John's important. Click Add as Key People, finish and close, and there we go. On our table of key people, we have all of those people linked into our opportunity. Click Save, and we're done. That's how easy it is to add related people. And it gets better because this is really easy to configure with the action framework. And we're going to go and actually add it for line items, for adding products to an opportunity from a catalog. So before we show that, let's see how this is done. Okay. So going into the key people, we have our global action called Define Key People. Now this is just going to show a pop-up using our regular pop-up. And what we have here is we have a table that is on a potential contacts model. It's really just on contacts so that we can see contacts filtered to those at this account. We can also have a filter to turn that off if you want to just expand it to show all contacts and let you search around, find people. But we have this row action, add the person as a key person, and add as key people mass action. Both of these are using the action framework. Let's take a look at the mass action. So actually, let's do the row action first. That's what I meant. The row action is a little simpler. Again, this is using our create new row and model action. But you'll notice, here's the big difference. It's creating new row not in this contacts model, but in the opportunity roles model. So you can create new rows in different models. And where this gets really powerful is in these default values. This is a really important step, so I want to spend some time on this. what we are doing here with this ID merge is we're taking values off of the context row. So that's the contact row here. And we're passing this over into our new opportunity contact role record. So we're setting the contact ID to be a contact records ID. And these merges are executed in context of this row. So we could have, if we wanted to set some field to the first name, the last name, the title, the email, we have all that data on our row, so we could have passed those in like this. We could have passed in title, first name, but here we want to pass in the records ID. And that's often very important. That's often what you really want to be doing. And the really cool thing about that is that all of the related information you have on that record, Skuid will pull that along so that in your view, all that related data will show up as well. So it'll look like you don't just see the ID, you see all the related information: contact, title, email, phone, account name, first name, last name. Now the other trick here we're doing, and this is a little bit different than the action framework, but this is just kind of a trick to let you be aware of, is we have this model called proto contact role. It's kind of a dummy model. We've created a default row in opportunity contact role. We have it set in edit mode. And what this really lets us do is it lets us apply default values to all the records we pick. So it's an interesting approach that you could leverage. Just to go back here to kind of show that again. What this does is, let's go actually do a mass. Let's go add in mass again. Just like these people and redo this. So we can pick a role here. So let's say that we want to add them all as executive sponsors. We'll pick these guys. So these guys are going to be added as executive sponsors. And then this cashier and the junior sales rep are going to be added as decision makers. Okay, so we'll put those guys in. Now we finish and close, and you'll notice that 2 of them were added as decision makers, 3 were added as executive sponsors. So that dummy model let us apply default selectively to the rows we were working on. How that works is here in our second default value here, we're going over to that dummy model. We're grabbing its first row and grabbing its role, and we're sticking that into the role field on our new contact role. So a lot of complicated stuff, some complicated stuff going on there, but really, really powerful. Really powerful paradigm here. Just want to touch on showing how that looks at the line item record. It can be very similar. Here we have the ability to add with quantity, discount, date. So we could apply that to all products. Again, we have mass action here. We could do the exact same thing. We could do the exact same thing for line items. I'm not going to go through that, but currently this is a custom. We could convert this over to run multiple actions, do the exact same thing. So we call that the shopping cart or quick add paradigm. Okay, let's leave this page. All right, for our last examples, we're going to leave a few more minutes before we're going to go on to the questions. Let's just spend I want to touch on model synchronization with listeners. So let's take a look here at this case console. So right now we have a case console over here. You can go click on a specific case, and it's going to load in a page include. Now what we're going to do is we're going to replace this with a QView that does not use a page include. We're going to replace it with a QView that uses the action framework to load in what's in there. So let's go over to our case QView page. Here we have a queue over here, but instead of having a page include in the main detail area, we have a page title and a tab set. So we're going to have case details here, and let's say case comments here in this tab. So let's to round out our set of actions and show how this works. The queue item action, rather than loading a page include, we're going to switch it to run multiple actions, which lets us tap into the action framework. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to show a message to block UI, say loading case details. Okay. And then we're going to just make sure we have our little unblock UI here at the end so we don't forget it. And now for our middle actions, we are going to run two model conditions actions. These are really important. We haven't touched on these yet on this webinar, probably because they're some that people get a little confused on, but they're actually not that complicated. It's a lot like filters. When you think about this action type, it's a lot like what a filter is doing. We have two models in our page that are prefixed with selected. So we have this kind of paradigm of having a list model somewhere in your page, maybe multiple list models, but then you have a set of selected models. These are going to be where we load data into that we're going to show after we've picked a record. These models should start out with load model data off. We don't want to pull in any data because we haven't selected anything yet. And again, this case comments one, we haven't selected anything yet, so turn that one off. And then each of these are going to have probably at least one condition on them, which is a placeholder for us to stick in a value. So for the selected case, we need to have a condition on case ID, call it case ID. And then it's going to be off by default and has no value. That's because it's a placeholder for us to stick in a value. So here for the case comment, we want to have, see, the parent field is a link to case. It's filterable default off. Again, we'll call this one case ID. And what this is going to let us do is with the action framework, we're going to, based on the queue item that we're looking at, we're going to go to our selected case model and set its case ID condition to be our selected case. We're also going to do this for our case comments model so that we load just case comments related to our selected case. Again, doing those two activate and set value model conditions actions. And lastly, we requery both of those models. So this is going to load data for our selected case, load data for our selected case comments, and if there's any errors, we want to make sure we unblock the UI just in case, and then we want to unblock the UI. Okay, let's do it. Now, one of the things we're not really showing much here. Let's just do a basic field editor to show that we can edit some details. So we're going to do this on our selected case. We're going to really quickly add in some model fields. So pull in the case number, and the subject, status, priority, owner, description, contact, and account. All right, I'll get all of it in, throw it all in there. Long, long list. Pretty ugly. But, okay, we got some fields in there so we can see if we're doing this right. And then for our case comments, let's just do a little table, a few fields, so we can show that we're doing that as well. Oh, don't have any fields in there yet. Just need the comment, body, and say who we created it, who it was created by. Okay. Okay, so then we have our very basic example here. Let's preview this. So let's go to 1001. Okay, so you notice that here we didn't use page include at all. We just loaded in related data, and there aren't any case comments yet, but let's create one. Inadequate support. Hate that. Okay, so now we go to another one. We come back. There's our case comment. You can really quickly move through our, you notice how quick it is. That's one of the benefits of the action framework is just the quickness of the load time and the instant synchronization of the UI. So what we want to do here now is, because in this example, we are working on a different model here in the case details than we are in this list. One of the benefits of doing that is that you can load lots more data into this selected case model than you would into this list. You might have hundreds of records in this list. You don't want to load 50 fields into that list for each record because that's going to slow down your load times. Whereas with this selected case record, you want to see everything. You want to see the whole case. You want to see all of its related data. So we have a different model, but we want to synchronize the two so they're kept in, so that we see what we're seeing here over here. So example, when I change this to be performance inadequate for the third consecutive week. Yes, this is very, very bad. This model is associated. It's the same model, but this over here isn't doing anything yet. So what we really want is for when we save this model over here is going to stay in sync. Here is where we can use model actions. So we'll go to selected case. This is the one we're working on. Now this is where we introduce model actions. It's underneath fields and conditions in a model's properties. Once you add a new model action, it'll say no initiating event specified. There's two categories to model actions. The first is initiating events, which is which model actions will trigger a sequence of actions. So what we want to say is when this model is saved, then I want to go run some actions. We could also say if a new row is created in this model, maybe I want to go requery another model, or if a row in this model was updated, I want to go do something in another model. All kinds of stuff possible there. What we want to do is we want to go requery our case data model. This is our list model. We want to do it silently so the user isn't distracted or anything. We just want to go run that to keep our page in sync. All right, so let's try this out. Okay, so here now it says third consecutive week. Let's change it to 80th. Very, very bad.
Really blowing it.
Really blowing it. Okay.
Yeah.
And there we go. So just very, very behind the scenes, our page was kept in sync. Lots of possibilities there. Okay, so that kind of brings us to the end of our demos. We have more examples. I mean, it's amazing how many things you can do with the action framework. And we're sure you guys are going to keep surprising us, as you already have with what you've done. But what we're going to do right now for the last few minutes is open it up for some questions. So,
good.
But before we do that, I know there's a lot of questions coming in. I want to make sure that people are aware that coming up on September 25th, we're doing another deep dive on building your app with Skuid. Now, this is going to be focused on building an app exchange app or a managed package, and to talk about some of the tools that Skuid has in place to help partners, especially ISVs and OEMs, who are building app exchange apps to very quickly build their UI with Skuid and get that UI packaged along with your app so that you can deploy it along to your customers. So we have several partners doing this already. We'll be excited to share some of the tools we have to help you with that process. And after that, the next thing we're going to be doing is at Dreamforce. So definitely come see us at Dreamforce. We are going to have a couple sessions, and we have a page out on our website. I think it's coming out about a master schedule of everything Skuid's doing at Dreamforce. We have several of our partners presenting on Skuid. We're presenting on Skuid. Maybe some other people are presenting on Skuid. We'll see. So just definitely follow us at Dreamforce. With that, let's take some of the questions. So
let me also just this is Matt. Again, want to reiterate, if a lot of this is Greek to you and you would still like just an intro into Skuid and its features and building pages, I will be doing a free dive on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Earlier, I posted the registration link as an answer to a question there in the questions pane of the GoToWebinar control panel there. So please register for that if you'd like to see Skuid. Vinny said, can you post any links for this session? Yes, we will be posting the recording and the slides for today's session to the Skuid community. That's at community.skuidify.com. I'm going to just post that here. And there is, and Zach's showing you the reference links there. Zach, do you want to copy and paste those into the, so I'm sending the link to our community, and that's going to be a good place to go. We've got all of our deep dives are up there. And I'll post the registration link for the deep dive as well. I'm sorry, the free dive. The free dive, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. I'm posting now. If you'd like to register, you can go there. Moshe says, it would be great if there was a do something to every row in a model action. It would make larger use cases easier to handle. Most of the time you assume that the first row is good enough, but in a lot of cases doing something to every row is more common. Great stuff as usual. Can we do anything like that?
Yeah, I think mostly actually the way that the update rows action works is if it doesn't, one thing that we kind of touched on in various cases was the idea of context to actions. And if Skuid does not have a specific row in context, then it will run on all rows in a model. So I think you actually give it a try with, if you're trying to run it on a related model, that sometimes the problem could be that if it's from a page title, there may be that page title's row is the one in context. But if you're trying to run it on a row with multiple records and you don't have a row in context, then it will run on all those rows. Now, that being said, one of the things that we have targeted for future action framework improvements is to be able to more explicitly identify which rows or which context to use for performing certain actions. So, great example there, update rows. You might want to say, hey, I have a couple rows in context here in my sequence, and I want to use this one or that one or all. So that's understood that is a way we may be improving in the future.
Sebastian asked, where can you register for the September 25th deep dive? That is going to be sent out in an email just like we did for this one. So be on the lookout for that. When we open up registration, you will get an email for that. Any other questions today?
It's coming in. Yeah.
Moshe said also probably make it easier for some of the rookies if you can declaratively select a field value to update off of instead of using merge syntax.
Yes, that's also agreed there. Yeah, very good point. We are one of the reasons why we wanted to start out with the merge syntax. Is just that it does allow you to do some pretty crazy things. And that's one thing we might be rolling back into some other condition value editors is the merge syntax editor. But agreed that we're working on ways to try to integrate some more of that simplicity for some of those basic cases. Yeah, good point.
Greg asked, is there a way to clone multiple actions?
Currently, no. Right now, you can take action sequences from XML. That's one way that we're using it right now. And granted, we feel the desire to clone them. We're also contemplating allowing you to reuse action sequences. That's one thing that we've heard already from the community and are experiencing is just the desire to take a sequence of actions and define it so that you can use it in multiple places. So that may be coming in the future.
Sebastian asked when the action framework will be available. Good news. The action framework exists right now in the
Summer 14
release, which has been pushed to all sandbox and production orgs. So if you have Skuid installed and you have the latest version, then you have the action framework. And again, we'll be posting this video, but you can get to that if you create a button and go to the actions section in the properties tab. Same thing in the models, like Zach went over in the video. But yes, it's available now.
There are, just full disclosure, there are a few things that we showed today that are only in the latest version of Skuid, which you can get from the Skuid releases page. That's squidify.com/squidreleases, all one word. So for some of the things with the create new row and the update rows, where that might be necessary to use the latest release. So recommend for full functionality use the latest version. But that is available.
Vineeth says, what happens when an action sequence doesn't work? Is there any chance of skipping the sequence of actions?
So yeah, you can do, so as we were showing with the on-air actions, the three ways that really the action, there isn't really much way for actions to fail other than them going through the save routine where there may be a problem with a save, or a model there might be a query problem. So with those places, we've added the on-error branching. In that case, any on-error actions you defined will be run, but the rest of the sequence after that will not. Now, the one thing that there's a community post about this, just for those of you interested in snippets, which is probably very, very few of you. But if your snippet returns false, snippets can have on-error actions as well. If your snippet returns false, then on-error actions will be run after it. Otherwise, anything after it will be run. So snippets can kind of define what the direction of your action sequence. But just for your example, the basic thing is on-error actions will happen, and only when save errors happen or query errors happen.
Sebastian asked he clarified, when is the documentation for the action framework going to be available?
So the two links I have that I posted, those are available right now. Those should be working right now.
We will be adding to that.
Yeah, we'll be adding more documentation. Yeah.
And again, I would stress, get plugged into our community, because that's where you're going to be able to see how people are using the action framework. That's where the envelope gets pushed out, and we're excited to see what happens. Tuere and Bill both asked when drag and drop is coming to mobile. Or Bill asked that. Tuere, I don't know if she's talking about
that. So the drag and drop is not currently a declarative feature. It's just an example that we have that sample page is available. That's some JavaScript stuff, but not currently a declarative feature. But you can add it. So you could add that to both. You could add that to mobile or to desktop with JavaScript.
All right. Any other questions?
All right, we're going to wrap up. Yeah, and if you guys have any other questions, definitely, as Matt said, go on the community and light it up. We will answer them as soon as we're able to, very happily. So thank you all for joining. We'll see you next time.
All right. Have a great day.